So we're going to start with the BF108, which is Eduard's 132 scale version of this aircraft. They have released this before in 148, and this is the Profi Pack edition, which means it comes with. So in some ways, people think of Eduard as the budget entry level for 132, and I'm not. And the box sort of gives you that feel, if I'm honest. On this side, we've got the aircraft that you can do from this particular kit in the box. You've got a blown up version of it on this end. We have a sticker on this end, which gives you yet another version, I think. And then on this side, we have some information in Polish and British. On the front, we've got quite a nice picture of it in its North Africa markings, and we've got a couple of Matilda tanks on fire there, which I'm guessing the BF108 was responsible for. So when we have a look inside the box, first thing that greets us is the colour instructions, and we'll come back to those. And then you've got a box filled right to the top with sprues in individual bags. Let's take a closer look. So our first sprue out has the wings on it, and this gives you an idea of the size of the aircraft. What we can see is we get lots of very nice detail. So we've got recessed panel lines and the little removable points to get entry into the wings. We've got rivet detail, and then on the upper wings, we've got the same. We've got bolt detail and simple panel lines. There's no texture particularly, other than it has a slightly mottled rough finish. When we flip it up onto the inside, there is no detail on the inside, so we can imagine that this gets completely enclosed. But you've got no flash, I can't see any sink, so the parts look nice. Next out of the box is the two fuselage halves. And in the same way as the wings, we've got some nicely depicted recessed panel lines, bolt detail. I don't know whether that's oversimplified. We've also got the nose here, undercarriage struts, looks like fuel tank, or fuel tank halves. There's the other half there, which got the strap detail, some bolt detail, and then we've got some tiny parts and the covers for the undercarriage. When we look underneath, there is some detail on there. There's also a small ejector pin mark, but we can see clearly where this is going to locate into that. And then we have, I'm guessing it's part of the tail, or which is in two halves, and that also has some nice little raised detail with bolts on. So our next sprue has the tail, and tail comes in two halves, and then we've got more parts of the tail here, and it looks like we've got two slightly different versions. So we've got a version here which you can see has some rib texture but not much else, and then we've got a version here which has got the rib texture but then has some form of recessed panel line and a little connector point there, I'm guessing for radio cables. And then we have the flaps. Again, they have some rib texture on them. It's interesting that as I feel this, the texture on this flap is very, very rough. It's quite coarse, and then on this one it's quite smooth. And then we have some very fine details at the bottom, which I think is for the tail wheel. We flip it open. There's nothing on the other sides because these are the inside halves. So the next sprue that we have is dealing with interior detail in the main. So one of the interesting things about these sprues are they do have a letter, but it's quite small and difficult to see. They're well spaced out, so it's easy to get to the components, and some of the components are very finely detailed. When you consider the scale, there's some very fine moulding going on here. So what we have is we have a dashboard here that has raised detail which can be painted in. We have what looks like the tail wheel and part of the prop assembly. This looks like possibly two more sections of fuselage or maybe interior, and I think those are pedals. We've got the nose cone there, so we flip that over. So this is the floor pan for the cockpit. So this is two-person aircraft that sit next to each other, which is nice. Something a little bit different. Yeah, this looks like the interior walls of the cockpit, I'm guessing. Some wheels there. Did she have steering wheel style flight controls? Don't know. And then more tiny details, foot pedals, and finally a nicely done plastic prop that has connection points that aren't on the blades. So that's really nice. Now you can get a resin version of that from Eduard, but I don't see the need because that looks really quite nice. So all of these parts have got some form of detail on. You can see here, nice little rivet detail. So once you get a little bit of paint on this and a little bit of panel lines and what have you, this should really quite pop out. So next sprue has combination of parts. So we've got this looks like the back wall of the cockpit, and as you can see, it's got some really lovely detail on there. Rivet detail, raised detail with rivets on. And we've got the back of the couch style seats. Some small parts, again very finely detailed, little handles. And then we have what are engine components. So you've got those are coolers, I think. That looks like sump, for want of better understanding. Push rods, pistons, a lot of very fine detail, and all of it quite nicely done. There's no ejector marks jumping out at me. There is no noticeable flash or heavy seaming, and there's no sink. This looks lovely. Okay, this is the last of the sprues that aren't clear, at least. One thing you can possibly pick up is this is very oily. So this was probably the first one done after they'd put more release agent on. so definitely needs a good wash. So we've got there seats, different styles of wheels. So I'm guessing we've got 2 different styles of wheel there. Engine block, exhaust, part of the cowling at the front there, and I'm guessing there tail supports. So one of the common themes of these sprues has been detail one side, nothing on the other side. That all looks nice, doesn't it? And then the final sprue is the transparencies, and these are absolutely crystal clear. These are some of the best transparencies I've ever seen. And that's a large transparency, but what we can see on there is lots of nice rivet detail. The frame is picked out, it's raised but not massively raised, so it is in scale. And we've got another section there. I don't know if that's up to allow you to have it open. Looks like the front section, the rear section, and the 2 side sections. So I don't know, did that hinge up in a sort of a gull wing fashion? I'm not sure. We will have a look at the instructions in a minute. And then we've got some smaller parts in the middle, which will be lighting to go in the wings, I would guess. But that's lovely. And all of these parts came in these frosted individual bags. So next out of the box is the decals, and you get 2 sheets. So what you get is a bit like Airfix do. You get a section that is generic to all types, and then you get further sections for the different markings depending on which aircraft you're choosing to do. And what's interesting is we've got unmade and made up swastikas, but there's, I would say it's not heavy in decals. They certainly probably could have had more markings to put on. You do have an instrument panel there, so if you wanted to sand flat what's been supplied and put that on, you've got that option. If not, you can use it as a painting guide. Doesn't say who has made, well, who's made them. It references Eduard, so I can't tell you whether they're cartograph or not. And we look at this separate one. If you remember at the start, on the box was a little sticker, so that's an additional markings version there for Czechoslovak service. So that has some of the same markings that are actually on the main decal sheet as well, and possibly some more. So I don't know whether they're only on the Czech version, these small ones. So don't see them. That we've got some small ones, but not quite the volume that they have. So plenty of decal options, not massively overdone with the decals, but you've got the basic markings there, and the obvious signs and bits and pieces. So if you're buying the weekend version of the kit, what we've just seen is what you would have got, and if you remember, that's going to cost you £17 or £18 currently. This kit is a current kit that was released last year, but in the Profi Pack version, for just a few pounds more, you always get a bit of resin, a bit of etch, and some masks. So the first thing is to say we've got a set of masks in there that are die cut. You've got one set, so you're either doing the closed version or what I suspect is the open version, and you appear to have some wheel masks on there, but we'll have a look at that in the instructions because on the camera that's just a yellow sheet. Then we have the resin prop. Now I find this quite interesting. Eduard described this on their website as wooden prop. So it'll be interesting to compare this to the plastic one, because the plastic one had 2 connection nubs and it looked very nice. This one has lots and lots of connection nubs, and the blade is probably thinner and has ever so slightly different shape, but mine's clearly got a kink in it and would need some form of straightening. You couldn't fly the plane with that bend in it. And that's the spinner front there. So I don't know whether that's a particular prop for certain versions or just a replacement for the kit part, but having seen the kit part, it's not necessary to replace it really. And then finally we get some photo etch, and in that photo etch set we get another dashboard which is made up of 2 parts already coloured. What is interesting, what is nice, if you can see that, you've got raised little glossy lumps for the dials, so when that goes over that, that'll look very authentic. We've got all the seatbelt straps, the harnesses. We've got some control chains, little handles. They look like replacement pedals which have got the foot texture on. So just little details to bring the level up ever so slightly. So that's what comes in the kit. Let's take a look at the instructions. So on the front cover, which is a nice glossy coloured cover in a staple bound booklet, we have an introduction which gives you some history, telling you about the design history from 1934 and its intended use, its military life and its life after the Second World War, right up into the 50s. So just a very brief jog through its history and the versions. Then as we open up, we have a sprue call out which tells you what you should have in the box, so you can check that, which includes the plastic parts, the resin, the mask and the photo etch, and it has some little blued out parts here, which indicate that we won't be using those parts not for use. Then at the bottom here we have the paints. So we've got Aqueous, Mr. Colour and Mission Models paints shouted out. Quite a long list of paints there, but they give you the RLM numbers as well, and a description of the non-RML colours. So big list of colours there. Now obviously some of these will be used depending on which variant you're doing, so you won't need all of those for each model that you build. They have separated also the metallics, dark iron aluminium and super chrome silver from the non-metallics. So that then takes us into the build steps, and as with most aircraft you are starting with the interior, and right from the off, first thing you're doing is making a decision. because it says markings A only on here and here. So potentially you could be starting there, and there's a little question mark to show you which options you want to do. And I'm guessing that's to do with the seating arrangement, because I know that this was a 4-seater, but this version here appears to be a 3-seater with extra fuel tanks, maybe. The photo etch parts, which are additional items for this Profi pack, are in the instructions. So the instructions have been designed specifically for this enhanced version of the kit, and it shows you quite clearly there, all in nice colour. The photo etch parts, PE17 for example, going onto the plastic part, D5, it shouts out the colour so you know exactly what you're painting, because usually on photo etch parts they don't tell you what colour to paint them. You have to do your own research. So it's showing you here in red bits to remove, though I didn't see, no, we haven't had a key. Oh yes, we did, I beg your pardon. There's a key at the top here which I missed, which tells you what those are for, but there's nothing that actually says if it's red, remove it. It does have a little symbol there, which is the sort of knife blade file type symbol, but they have highlighted in red what's coming off, because you're going to make that up with the photo etch parts that we saw. And we turn over and you've got sub-assemblies which then feed into these major assemblies. Again, this is options, so marking A only, all other versions. All the way through this you've got paint shout outs, you've got clear, what goes where, and when you're making multiples it says 4 pieces. So this is for the seat belts, seat harnesses. And we've got the sidewalls there and pulling it all together. And then we have engine assembly, which gets mounted onto a back bulkhead. Then we have fuselage assembly with the engine going in. So as far as I can see, there's no options there for open engine covers. So all that lovely engine you've built up is getting put in and then covered up. You've got no option to see that unless you take a saw to the panel lines and do that yourself. Dashboard assembly, which shows you the PE parts being assembled rather than the plastic. So if you wanted to use the plastic as an option, you'd have to work that out, which maybe they could have given you both set of instructions. Then we have cockpit assembly going in underneath, followed by the wing assembly. Sub-assemblies there for the flaps. Wheel assembly options, as we noticed, there was different styles there. And then you've got, again, more options for certain markings, some small detail parts to go onto the wings, the little clear lights that we saw, more wing detail, coolers there have little photo etch parts that go on before they go on. and at this point we can still see the engine because we've not put the front cover on. Then we put in the canopy on, and it says here quite clearly closed, so we're going to have an open version. There's quite a bit of photo etch parts there to go on, so like mirror and handle. Though I only saw paint masks for the outside, not the inside, so that's interesting. Then we have assembly of the prop. Tells you not to glue that. It says marking A only for the plastic prop, and then the resin one is used for all the others. So if you want to do any of these markings, then you will have to sort out that damaged resin. Then we've got open canopy option. So yeah, it's a they fold forward, so that's quite an interesting canopy arrangement. That might look nice to do. And showing you where to place the photo etch again on these parts if you're having it open canopy. So they don't number their steps, they give them letters, so we'll have to count those up. Then you get the instructions for using the masks, which, as I said, are external masks only. Then we get the colour plates for the overall paint schemes. So what they've done here is they've given you all the different aspects, front and back of the prop, and then they've given you the decal shout-outs as well. So this is version A. So A was quite different to all the other versions. If you remember, it had the extra fuel tank and replacing a seat. It's the one that uses the plastic prop, which I'm guessing was an aluminium prop. And it says here Libya 1942. And then this one is Hungary 42 to 44. So using the resin prop, which you can quite clearly see here is the wooden one. Got some wood grain effect there. And at the bottom there it does shout out the main colours. Then we've got Soviet Union 42 to 43 in a winter camouflage effect. Eduard are always good at giving you very different variety of paint options. Then we've got Romania 1940, so what you'd consider a more classic splinter camouflage pattern. And then finally on the back cover you have this France 1940 version, which is in this sort of dull grey colour. That's probably a nice colour for weathering actually, though it's by no means the most striking looking paint scheme. So there you have it. That's the kit. Now after the kit comes out, what Eduard do is they bring out some additional photo etch and bits and pieces aftermarket that you can buy into as options. So let's have a quick look at the additional photo etch. So what you get in the additional photo etch, should you buy it, because it doesn't come with the kit, is you get one small sheet which has got quite a low count, but but as always with Eduard etch, it's very well done. And then we get a single sheet of instructions for that, which has clearly been ripped out rather than cut. So they must have produced several of these and then they've ripped them apart. So you get the same, you get what you should be getting to check that you've got the parts. You get the same little key to say this is what you should do, and then you get the placement of this. As always with Eduard's photo etch, and it drives me batty, there is no reference to colour whatsoever. So you can see here these red parts we need to remove, so there's some sanding. We've got a new bulkhead there. It's suggesting to cut open the engine cowling here, and then it's got detail to go on the inside of it. Which is nice, and which we'd sort of picked up on. And then it has some engine detail parts, so you're going to want to have those cowlings open, but I wonder how in scale they're going to look once they're cut open. They're going to look quite thick. Then we have some upgrade parts to the undercarriage. So if you remember, the plastic part had a little injector pin on it. This will just improve the look of that. You need to supply some 0.5mm plastic rod. And then you've got linings and detail for if you're going to have the undercarriage down. So just some little basic upgrades, to be honest. So there you have it. That's the first in our bottle of the 132s, which is the Eduard BF108. My thoughts on it: the kit looks lovely. It's all well presented. It's nice and crisp. No particular defects. What you're effectively getting is something that is a scaled up 148 scale style model in terms of level of detail. You're not getting anything additional. You're getting a set of instructions that are clear and that show you exactly what to do, but nothing more than that. You're getting a small potted history, and you're getting something that's clear and functional. And by doing that, Eduard are keeping the cost down. Let's not forget, this is, well under £30. It's, 22, £23 plus shipping. So, it's by no means an expensive kit, and you could pay more for a 148 kit. So if we think about it in terms of value, it's great value for money, because once you've built that up, you can have something that looks really, really nice and is quite a nice display piece and is a little unusual for not much money. And because you've got the photo etch included in it, you can add some fine detail where it counts. So inside the canopy, where it'll be clearly seen, absolutely lovely. And the bits that you would expect to see on a kit of this scale, like the bits that are underneath the wings, are all there and appear to be, at least in scale, in terms of how they've been moulded. So yes, you can get a nice aircraft out of it, and for the money, it's very, very good value, and that's what Eduard are very good at doing. What it doesn't do is take you to the next level. So when you've moved up from a 148 scale to a 132 scale, there's no shock, there's no wow factor with it. This is a bigger scale aeroplane and nothing more. It's not, this is a bigger scale aeroplane, so we can do this much more with it, and so we did do this much more with it. The benefit of them just scaling it up is that you get a kit that's very affordable to most people. The next kit that we will look at will be a Tamiya kit, and we can see what happens when you go, never mind the cost, what can we do with the kit? So thanks for looking in. Like I say, this is the first of 4 132 scale kits, all from different manufacturers, and we'll have a look at how they all compare and how they all go into the market and what they bring, and just help us with this decision about what's best. Thanks for looking. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, everyone. Hope to see you soon.